consideration of the 2025 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment for the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 1st July 2025. And on the floor of the House just before the break was Kalomo Central Member of Parliament, Mr. Harry Kambone, who was adding his voice to the motion under consideration.
We still have another motion, this one to be moved by Brigadier General Morgan Squala, retired, urging the House to adopt the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs on the review of the state infrastructure in the Defence Force for the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 1st July 2025.
And when business of the House resumed at 14:30 hours, the Honourable Madam First Deputy Speaker made some announcements, and she did recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Chrisma Academy in Chirundu District. She also recognized the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Pamwena Christian Academy School in Lusaka. And she did welcome the visitors to the National Assembly.
The First Deputy Speaker further did announce that she received communication to the effect that in the absence of our Honour, the Vice President, who is attending to other government business, the Minister of Defence, Honourable Ambrose L. Lufuma MP, has been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today, Thursday, 3rd July 2025, until further notice.
And the Honourable Madam, we cross back to the floor of the House.
Madam Speaker.
A quorum has yet to be constituted, and it is a requirement that 1/3 of the members of Parliament have to be in the House for business to continue. And in this case, the bells will still ring until a quorum has been constituted. And earlier on, we heard...
When business was suspended, the House was considering the motion to adopt the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the consideration of the 2025 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment for the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly, and the Honourable Member for Kalomo Central was debating. May the Honourable Member continue.
Madam Speaker, when you want to buy a fritter or a scone, it's different. I can just wake up and I buy it today. When you want to buy a car, the process is different. Yes. When you want to buy a plane, the process is different. Yes. When you want to invest in minerals, you don't just wake up today, you start digging the minerals and sell. This government has done very well in that area. He was asking to say, we have gold and we have all these other minerals that we haven't started, mining. So therefore, we are not planning properly. No. It's this same government that has increased the copper production, which has led to the kwacha gaining, the best currency in the world at the moment. This takes time. When we were talking about free education, they said it's not possible. Now they have stopped talking about it. There's free education. We told them, we want to invest in production of maize so that the prices can naturally come down. Now the price for meal is coming down. They are no longer asking on the price for minerals. They were also talking on fuel. Now, it's all these investments which are well planned that are now beginning to bring in the results. Yes, we have minerals that are upcoming. We have identified them. They need proper planning and proper investment. So you can't just wake up and say, you have gold, you go and dig the following day you are selling. No. Everything is in the process. But you have seen, if it was still the PF government, our copper production would have gone far lower than what they were when they left. From the time they came, the copper production was going down. Now it's going up. The kwacha has gained. Now the meal price is down. Now the kwacha has gained. The fuel is down. say something about that. Miu down, kwenyu. Miu up, kwenyu. Fio down, kwenyu. Kwacha again, kwenyu. By kwenyu, I mean correct. By kwenyu, I mean correct. So this is what happens. Even when we are investing, first you spend. After spending, that's when you get the results. You have to break even. You can't make profit immediately.
The Honorable Member for Kalomo Central, there's an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Chinsali, what is your point of order?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to rise on a point of order. Madam Speaker, I think you have noticed I rarely rise on points of orders. Madam Speaker, I was following my elder brother, the Honorable Member on the floor, who is an eloquent debater. I was following very well the debate that he was putting across. But while the things that he was talking about may be true, Madam Speaker, but when we are debating, we are guided by our standing orders that tell us that when you are debating in the House, you have to be relevant, Madam Speaker. We have a report on the floor of the House which is to do with the borrowing plan. Now, the issues that the Honorable Member is talking about do not relate to what we are discussing. Is he in order to talk about issues that are not relevant to the report that we have on the floor of the House? Madam Speaker, I seek your serious ruling. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kalomo has got his own views. I was following him well and attentively, where he was talking about the borrowing and the effect that it has generated. So really for me, what I can say that the Honorable Member of Kalomo Central was simply putting down his facts and his own views. Those are his views. If he's not correct, the Honorable Minister of Finance will come to respond. But each one of us in this House, we've got our own views. So long the views are in line with the report on the floor of the House. So the Honorable Member was not out of order. May you wind up, Honorable Member?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My good honorable friend maybe wasn't here. It was said here, why are you borrowing when you can use gold that we have not yet started mining? Yes. So I was explaining that it is a process. It's a process, and we have invested, we have opened many mines now, and our copper productions are up, which have led to the kwacha gaining, the fuel price going down, Miu also we invested going down. These are very good policies. So all I was trying to explain is to justify that it is necessary that we borrow. And also here, I don't understand why some people should be confused. This money borrowed is clearly stated on how it is going to be used. Very clearly. A committee was set, people were called, and they all approved. All the witnesses that determined, that are stakeholders in the economy, said this is okay. So this is what I was trying to explain here. I think for me, really, this supplementary, this borrowing of 14 billion is all right. The mathematics of this government are good, and it's a high time. We thank the Minister of Finance. Honorable Minister, you are doing a fantastic job. What are the results? What are the signs? The kwacha gaining, Miu coming down, copper production going up, and so fuel going down. All these are signs that you are doing a good job. And it's a high time we said, job well done. Thank you very much. So we remain with Wati Kwenyu. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving opportunity to the people of Chiengi to debate on this very important motion which was brought in the House. Madam Speaker, my today's debate will be in form of questions which I'll be expecting the executive to respond to when I'm done. Madam Speaker, I understand very well why the UPND government is borrowing. But before I speak, Madam Speaker, we are a democratic country where the backbenchers are allowed to question the actions taken by the government. We should not be like some parliaments I know of in the East Africa, where no one should question why the government is doing this, for the fear of going to jail. Allow me to debate, Madam Speaker, with a clear conscience whether I go to jail or not. Madam Speaker, the questions I have.
The Honourable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I think there is no need of you mentioning going to jail. I don't think Parliament has taken anybody to jail after debating. So can we just focus on the report and debate freely without fearing to go to jail?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, thank you so much for the guidance. I know what I'm talking about. Madam Speaker, I would like to find out if it's prudent to borrow in order to set off a date. You borrow, you go and set a date. And I also would like to find out, this is the government which said that there was no room for borrowing. And I want to find out, why are they borrowing? As I mentioned earlier, I know exactly why the government, according to the report, why they're borrowing. Madam Speaker, we are 20 million Zambians, and here we cannot afford 156 to borrow without making somebody in Chiengi to understand why this government is borrowing to settle the dates for fuel. The question I have, Madam Speaker, didn't this government see or foresaw that this would come? These are eventualities that they should have planned for, to put in the budget to say we cannot be borrowing in just 1 year, fiscal year for the government. We are borrowing $1.2 billion US. Madam Speaker, I find this to be wrong. We cannot be borrowing and borrowing. Should this government go out, another government will be in problems. They are talking about PF borrowing. It's a reason where we are today. Now, who is going to settle the monies that they are borrowing today? It was last week, Madam Speaker, I asked the Minister of Finance, how can he make the Zambians understand that our economy is doing well? His response was that people are getting employed in the mines. And I was trying to get the answer, why is our economy is not doing well? I was told mines have opened. Any common Zambian, if you go to Mtendere, go to Chiengi, people are suffering. The milli meal that my colleague was just debating saying it has gone down, is it going for 50 kwacha? Electricity, Madam Speaker, if you buy units for electricity, if you buy for 1,500 kwacha, it will give you about 500 units, which never used to happen. If you buy electricity units for 1,500, you have something like 1,000 units plus. Now, the questions that I'm having is, why are we still borrowing? And who has given the government the right to go and borrow? Because the shareholders of this nation is the Zambians. You cannot borrow without telling the main shareholders. We came here for the budgets, to be added. I don't want to be disturbed.
All the honourable members,
Guys, people serious again in the land, please.
All the honourable member.
Chirishan.
Can we give a room to debate? We are running behind time. The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning is going to be given a time when he's going to respond. So whatever issues she's bringing out, the Honourable Minister of Finance will come and respond. We are behind time. We have to deal with the committee stage of the supplementary budget. The Honorable Member for Chienge, continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am a backbencher, and I need to hold the executive accountable. I'm here to question, and not to be told by those on your right-hand side that I should not question. And I made it so clear. I'm here to ask the executive, and my debate is in question form. Has the meal price gone to 50 kwacha? Has the electricity tariffs gone down? Those are the questions I want to be told. Because we are still borrowing, and yet we were told the borrowing ceiling there's a ceiling for borrowing. We cannot borrow anymore. Who is going to be paying back this? It's our children. Some of us, or some of them, will not even be there. So this is the reason I want to know. Zambians deserve, Madam Speaker, to understand why is the government borrowing, and how is this going to be paid back? And for the private sector, is the private sector not being disadvantaged when the government itself is borrowing from the commercial banks at the commercial, that 13% which I had, which is written there? What about now the private sector? What's going to happen? I'm not a technical person, but I'm looking at what is on the ground. Documents can tell me something else, but the reality is totally different. These are the questions, Madam Speaker, I want to ask the executive. All that I'm asking are the answers. And it would be very nice, or a good idea, for the government to explain to the Zambians in vernacular so that they understand why the government has borrowed. Is it to settle the debts or what? We are here speaking in English, and yet these debts, they affect every Zambian, not the members of parliament who are here debating in English, not even the policymakers. It's a reason, Madam Speaker, I was saying I'm questioning, and I want answers. If it can be possible, why is it that the government cannot take the route of informing the nation? Because it's very important. Every Zambian is going to pay for this debt. It's not UPND government paying, it's every Zambian. So I just want to know, once again, Madam Speaker, Honorable Minister, you are going to borrow money in order to settle the debts which were incurred for fuel, right? Those are the answers I want to hear. So that the people know that so it's prudent to borrow to settle what you are owing. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Member, just for your information, the official language that is used in the House is English. And the people out there, they chose you to come to this House and represent them. So it's your duty, and you've got the mandate to do this work we are doing here in English. It was just an addition. Looking at time, I will allow the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security to come in.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to state that I support the motion that has been moved by the Honorable Minister of Finance pertaining to the matter under consideration. I'll try to respond to some of the issues that have been raised, not on behalf of the Minister of Finance, but on behalf of government. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Nkana lamented and blamed this government that we are not doing anything whatsoever to capitalize and ensure that we get money from the mineral endowment we have in this country. I would like to state, Madam Speaker, that from the time of our independence to date, the UPND is the only government that has commissioned a nationwide exploration to determine the minerals we have in this country. We have done it through this government. The results will be showing very, very soon. Madam Speaker, We are the first government since independence that has created a minerals commission to ensure that Zambians benefit from our mineral endowment. We are the only ones since independence. We are the only government that has passed a law to ensure that Zambian companies and individuals benefit from the foreign investment in this country. We are the only ones. Yeah. Madam Speaker, we are the only government that has decided to ensure that our Zambian residents and citizens are given artisanal licenses on a large scale. We are the only ones. Why are we doing this? We are trying to prop up our citizens so that they can be empowered. When Zambian citizens are empowered, the money remains in the country. Yes. And when Zambian companies are empowered and they gain money through their businesses, the Zambian government will be able to get taxes. And once you get taxes, you are able to provide for the people of the country. We are a government that does not believe in sharing poverty. Because you can't share poverty. As a result, we are empowering Zambians so that they can be enriched. That's what we are doing. We have heard of the issues of the examples of Umufumbwe, Dongwe, Mpika, that we are not benefiting from that. We are doing everything possible. My colleague, the Minister of Defense, is here. We are doing everything possible not to allow illegal miners in those areas by securing those areas. Yeah. And the government has given a directive that the Zambians must start mining legally by getting artisanal licenses. We have been challenged, even us here. We have the right to get licenses. That is what a responsible government can do. We have heard from the Honorable Member of Parliament for Chieng saying we should not be debating here and we should not be acquiring debt because the people of Zambia have not been consulted. She has forgotten that we are in a representative democracy. That is why we are here, representing the 20 million Zambians. That's why we are here. If other people don't know why they are here, we forgive them. Just like what Jesus did. He forgave those who didn't know what they were doing. Madam Speaker, this government is proposing the investment we are making in order to ensure that we pay back the debt. And once we pay back the debt, there will be money in the economy. The suppliers, some of the suppliers of the fuel are local businessmen and women. And our colleagues have been urging us, Madam Speaker, to ensure that there's money in the economy. And that is what we are doing. I've been advised by my colleague, Honorable Member of Parliament, for the Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, wherein he has likened the opposition to a spoiled spouse. Yes. The spouse goes out, borrows money extravagantly, and is not able to pay. When the other spouse pays, it becomes an issue. And tells the spouse that I'll divorce you because you are paying the debt, which I borrowed. That is how spoiled the PFR. If they hadn't borrowed, we would not have been, I hear there is no PF. If it went for the borrowings, Madam Speaker, which they had incurred in this country, we would not have been in the situation we are in. Our colleagues had defaulted paying the debt. And as a result of the default, we are not able to marshal resources to provide for our people. But because we are a responsible government, we have decided to pay back the loans they got irresponsibly. That's what we are doing. You are aware, Madam Speaker, that some of the borrowings they incurred were not utilized prudently. That's a fact.
Order, Honorable Minister. I'll allow the last point of order because I mentioned that we have a lot of work. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Madam Speaker, it's a procedural point of order. And first of all, I want to say in Congole, borrowing is borrowing. It doesn't matter who borrows and how it is borrowed. Madam Speaker, these honorable ministers, the standard practice, Madam Speaker, here in this August House is that these honorable ministers have got portfolio functions. The owner of the motion is the Honorable Minister of Finance. And now we are developing some procedural arrangement where a minister responsible for other portfolio functions would start responding on behalf of the Minister of Finance. Where, Madam Speaker, we need to guide each other because it's very important. If we are saying decorum, if we are saying conduct of business must be orderly, it must be orderly on both sides. This is a motion for the Honorable Minister responsible for finance. And the minister should be the one to respond. Cabinet ministers should not take the space for backbenchers to debate on the motions and start debating on behalf of their colleagues. It's a procedural, Madam Speaker. We need to set the standards correct. We have been there longer than you have been. And then when we are coaching you.
The Honorable Member for
Madam Speaker.
You are now debating, and you didn't also cite the breach that has been committed by the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs. If you were in this House, I had actually indicated to say the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning is going to sum it all. He's still coming to respond to all the issues. But if there is a cabinet minister who wants to come in and debate, I'm sure they've got the right to do so. But the Honorable Minister of Finance will come before the chairperson of the motion winds up debate. So the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, you may continue.
Give me more time. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to remind my colleague, who was the Minister of Home Affairs, that what I'm doing is exactly what he used to do when he was sitting here. He used to defend the government on the floor of this House, even if the motion was not for the Minister of Home Affairs. So I'm doing what exactly you used to do. And I want to remind you that you used to debate very well defending PF. And I'm defending very well defending UPND government. So, there's nothing wrong, as Madam Speaker has indicated. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to intervene on the motion that has been presented. To start with, I want to thank the committee for the wonderful work that they've done, the analysis that they've conducted, and the conclusions that they have made in support of the borrowing plan. Madam Speaker, just to say that this is a government that is very responsible in terms of borrowing. This is the government that put into law handbrakes. It put into law handbrakes to make sure that every loan that is taken up by the nation comes on the floor of this House. This is something new. It was not there before. It was not there before. Therefore, we can be the last one to allow a situation where reckless borrowing comes back. Let me answer some of the concerns that were raised by colleagues across the other side. And to start with, I want to say, Madam Speaker, that I'm a saddened person. Saddened because young people who should invest energy and time to get knowledge, to be informed, they are not doing so. That's why in the past I've always said ignorance can be very dangerous to yourself. Ignorance can be very dangerous to the society. Ignorance can be very dangerous to the country. I think yesterday we went through some of the important items that have made it necessary to do the supplementary expenditure and also why it has become necessary to borrow. Just to repeat, Madam Speaker, we are faced with a situation whereby there was debt. There was debt that was accumulated by our colleagues from the PF on the fuel. That debt has been sitting on our books, and unfortunately, this debt was procured carelessly. Because in certain cases, the interest for not servicing the debt was as high as 27%. Madam Speaker, there's nowhere in the world where you borrow at 27% on dollars. But this was what was done, 27%. So the debt has been sitting on our books. And if we didn't do anything, it will keep growing and growing, growing and growing, growing and growing. So a big chunk of the money that we're borrowing is to pay off this existing debt, which is expensive. I'm surprised that somebody was saying 13% is too high, forgetting that the debt on the left is 27%. So surely, if you borrow at 13%, to pay a debt at 27%, that is wisdom. That is wisdom. So, Madam Speaker, this debt is already sitting on our books. It's not as if, as the economists say, there's net increase in borrowing, or that what is happening is that you replace an existing expensive debt with a cheaper debt. So, Madam Speaker, this is the matter as simple as all that. But on top of that, Madam Speaker, here is something that is interesting that I need to add. All these years, as this debt was sitting on our books, as I said, it was growing and growing and growing. In paying off this debt, the institutions that we owe money, they have been persuaded to write off a significant amount of the accumulated interest. In certain cases, the interest forgiven is as high as 70%. So if your accumulated interest can be written off 70%, the amount of money that remains to be paid attracts 13% instead of 27%. This is what we call wisdom. And therefore, it is very sad that young people that we thought are educated, knowledgeable, and so forth, they cannot see this. It's very, very sad. So, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I think Honorable Muvika says this is wise. This is wise Tobacco Musokotwane must not retire because the young ones are not ready. So, so, Madam Speaker, I think, in short, I want to say that the decision that has been made to borrow and extinguish some of these expensive loans, it is in the best interest of the country. And this is why you see, if you read through the international media, if you listen to the international media, they are all saying, Zambia, well done. Yeah. Because they can see the progress that is being made. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Momba wind-up debate.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity again to wind up on this debate, the motion on the floor. Madam Speaker, I can only thank the members, those who have debated and those who have not debated, and also the Minister of Finance and National Planning, the Minister of Home Affairs, for their responses. And now, Madam Speaker, I only request my colleagues to support this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the consideration of the 2025 Annual Borrowing Plan Amendment for the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 1st July 2025. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Next motion, the Honourable Member for Kaoma Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think just allow me to join my colleagues in congratulating and welcoming Honourable Rufeo Ngoma, Member of Parliament for Lumezi. Honourable, you are most welcome. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs on the review of the state of infrastructure in the Defence Force for the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 1st July 2025.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker, the motion is seconded.
Seconded by the Honourable Member for Kasama Central. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs on the review of the state of infrastructure in the Defence Force for the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on 1st July 2025. Any debate? The Honourable Member for Kaoma Central.
Thank you once again, Madam Speaker. It is my firm belief that honourable members have read the report on the committee and therefore allow me to only highlight some of the salient issues that were observed during the deliberations with all the stakeholders who were invited. Madam Speaker, the committee observes that the effectiveness and the efficiency of the Defence Force is mainly dependent on good and adequate infrastructure. However, the committee observes with concern that some of the infrastructure within the Defence Force dates back to the pre-independence era, some as far back as 1933, when the Northern Rhodesia Regiment, now the Zambia Army, was established. Madam Speaker, as honorable members are aware, infrastructure refers to virtual systems and physical assets that support the operations and the training of Defence Force personnel. These include military bases and barracks, command and control centers, training facilities, airfields, and medical facilities, among others. However, Madam, the committee has observed that the state of some of the infrastructure in the Defence Force is dilapidated and requires a clear policy and legal framework if we are to achieve the nation's agenda for modernization. We therefore appeal to government to amend the Defence Act, Cap 106 of the laws of Zambia, so as to expressly provide for infrastructure development to support the operational needs of the Defence Force. When the committee undertook its local tour to Lusaka, Central Province, Copperbelt, and indeed Luapula provinces, it was observed that almost all barracks had old and dilapidated housing units. The committee therefore recommends that sufficient funds are allocated in the national budget for construction of new housing units, office space, as well as the rehabilitation and maintenance of the old infrastructure. Madam Speaker, this goes with the water and sanitation facilities. Madam Speaker, with regard to the prefabricated housing units for the military personnel at Zambia Air Force Ibex Aviation Town and the Lusaka West, commonly known as L85 Camp Apollo, the committee observed that these were in a deplorable state and infested with termites. This is aside the fact that these were recently constructed. The committee also noted that maintenance and renovation was a challenge as buildings were prefabricated. In this regard, the committee strongly recommends that for durability and quality assurance, the government considers using brick and mortar to construct housing units and office space for military personnel countrywide. A good example of barracks constructed using brick and mortar is the Kara Barracks of 48 Marine Commando Unit Special Forces in Kawambwa. Kara is a modern, standard military barracks, which the committee recommends should serve as a benchmark for all Defence Force infrastructure development in Zambia. Madam Speaker, the committee also toured the Buffalo Park Barracks in Chalala, right here in Lusaka, which is under construction. And this is using the brick and mortar model. The committee learned with dismay that the government is still owing the contractor a sum of $57 million for phase 1 of the project. The committee therefore recommends that the government should pay the contractor urgently so that the first phase of the project is completed. Madam Speaker, the committee observes with great concern that despite the Defence Force having sufficient manpower and qualified engineers to undertake construction projects to improve the state of infrastructure for the Defence Force, the available manpower has not been utilized to its full potential due to insufficient resources allocated towards maintenance and construction of new infrastructure. The committee therefore strongly recommends that the government, through the Ministry of Defense, must establish a fund directly, a special contingent fund for construction, maintenance and the renovation of infrastructure for the Defence Force. An example we saw when we toured one of the units in ZNS. In conclusion, Madam, the committee wishes to express its gratitude to you and the Clerk of the National Assembly for the support services rendered to it throughout the deliberations. Gratitude also goes to all the stakeholders who provided the committee with both written and oral submissions. This greatly assisted the work of the committee. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kasama Central.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you for according me the opportunity to second this progressive motion before this August House. Allow me to also thank the mover of the motion and chairperson of the committee for the able manner in which he presided over the committee's deliberations. Madam Speaker, I will only focus on 4 salient issues. Madam Speaker, I will start my discourse with a comment on the low budget allocation towards the maintenance, renovation, and construction of Defence Force structures. During our local tours, the committee learned that the Zambia Defence Force continues to face a lot of challenges in regard to unsatisfactory state of infrastructure due to inadequate resources to build and maintain barracks to the required standard. Madam Speaker, the committee strongly recommends that the government should increase the Defence Force budgetary allocation to this effect. By increasing its defence infrastructure budget, Zambia is not just spending on buildings, but investing in a more secure, responsive, and resilient nation while protecting the welfare of those who defend it. Madam Speaker, the committee also notes with great concern that a number of military cantonments and units do not have adequate medical essential drugs to support the welfare of personnel in the units. Madam Speaker, for instance, at the Zambia National Service Sopelo camp, the clinic, which was designed for a population of not more than 200 people, but has a catchment of over 500 people, only has 2 small rooms that are used as a clinic. Madam Speaker, in addition, the camp clinic at Kalewa Garrison Barracks, which services a population of 1,299 officers and soldiers and has a catchment of more than 3,000 people, has a tiny single room used as a male ward. The committee notes that most clinics lack the PIMA analyzer. This, in lay terms, is a CD4 count machine, Madam Speaker, and other medical equipment and essential drugs. In this regard, the committee recommends that the government should increase funding towards the purchase of medical equipment and essential drugs in military cantonments, units, and barracks to support the well-being of service personnel and surrounding communities. Madam Speaker, the committee continues to observe with great concern that water supply in most Defence Force barracks, military camps, and cantonments is erratic, and the sewer system is in poor condition due to broken down old pipes, broken down sewer pipes, and calcium accumulation exacerbated by load management. To illustrate, Madam Speaker, the L85 Apollo camp in Lusaka West serves a catchment area of 28,000 people. These include military personnel, their families, and the surrounding communities. Madam Speaker, the L85 Apollo camp has water supply which is only approximately 2 to 4 hours a day. And at times, the camp goes without water. And out of 15 sunken boreholes, only 5 are operational. And most of the pumps that are used to pump this water are faulty. Madam Speaker, that poses great concern. This is just to mention one of the camps, but this is the prevailing situation in most. Madam Speaker, I'll further comment on the lack of modern training facilities. The committee notes the lack of modern training facilities in most of the Defence Force training schools. This is due to the increase in the number of recruits enrolled over the years. In this regard, Madam Speaker, the committee wishes to recommend that the government should purchase modern training equipment and improve on facilities to enhance operational readiness of the Zambia Defence Force. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to state that improved infrastructure will strengthen national security, it will improve troop welfare, save costs through proper maintenance, and we can also create jobs. I therefore urge my fellow honourable members to support this non-controversial motion. Madam Speaker, I beg to second. Thank you.
Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Kabwata.
I'm grateful, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. First of all, Madam Speaker, I want to state that we do support the motion on the floor of the House. However, Madam Speaker, I want also to look at some critical issues that have been raised in the report. The first thing that I would want to talk about, Madam Speaker, is the issue of the legal framework governing infrastructure in the Defence Force. Madam Speaker, yes, the legal framework is actually there, though it needs a bit of changes or amendments so that it can suit the current trends of our country. Madam Speaker, the Zambia Defence Forces are actually one of the best in Southern Africa, let me say Africa, in terms of training and discipline. Today, if you go to other countries that are providing this peacekeeping mission, you talk about the Zambia Defence Forces, they'll tell you that the Zambia Defence Force is one of the top forces in Africa. They are well-trained, well-disciplined, but the only challenge that we have with this Defence Force, Madam Speaker, and allow me to be blunt, because we are the only ones that can speak for these individuals. They themselves, they cannot come and tell you what challenges they are going through. Madam Speaker, yes, we do appreciate in the past we saw how the funding was given to the Ministry of Defence. However, Madam Speaker, to be honest with you, I don't see that the funding that has actually been given to the Defence Force is able to answer to some of these challenges that the Zambia Defence Forces are facing. If you look at the issues to do with the infrastructure, if you paid attention to the report that was given to the chairperson of the committee, he talks about some of the infrastructure which were constructed way back in the colonial days. Some of them date as way back as 1939. Madam Speaker, you cannot have the best trained and well-disciplined defense force, and yet the state of infrastructure they are operating in is a disaster. Madam Speaker, it is therefore that I'm calling upon the executive to reconsider and see how best they can actually inject more monies or more funds in the Ministry of Defense for them to answer to some of these challenges that the Zambia Defense Forces are facing. If you go to the barrack that is actually under construction, which is going to house almost 1,000 houses for our personnel in Chalala, the Buffalo Park, Madam Speaker, that will be the best solution on how we can sort out some of the challenges that the Zambia Defense Forces are facing. But we need to ensure that we liquidate the amount that is owed to the contractor. You can't talk about motivating a soldier or having the best soldier defense forces when they are struggling with issues to do with accommodation. Madam Speaker, today we've heard of stories of how soldiers have been fighting with civilians. Today we are hearing of stories how soldiers have now moved out of the barracks and have gone out to construct houses. As a result of that, Madam Speaker, we just had one of our colleagues who was battered, taught a lesson by the Zambia Defense Force because of course, the Zambia Defense Force mingling with the civilian. I think it's high time we differentiated the residents for the Zambia Defense Force and the civilian. Madam Speaker, you talk about L85. We have soldiers that live in Lusaka West, but yet they are struggling with transportation. They are unable to go and report for work. And these are the challenges that need to be sorted out. If we leave them bare like that, then we'll have a challenge. We'll end up now having renegade soldiers who fail to get instructions from their instructors or their superiors. That is the reason why we are calling upon the executive to consider, at least consider, buying enough vehicles for the Zambia Defense Force, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I'm speaking right now, if you go to some of these barracks, you'll find an officer exchanging a battery at Chosap. Oh, sorry. He removes the battery from this vehicle, he takes it to another vehicle. They are also exchanging some of these, what you call alternators. I think it is not right, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Zambia Defense Force is one of the best forces that we have in Africa, well-trained and well-disciplined, but they lack motivation, Madam Speaker, for these soldiers of ours, the ZAF, ZNS, to receive the best motivation. I think government needs to consider increasing the funding to the Ministry of Defense. Procurement, Madam Speaker, this is another issue. Suppliers have stopped actually supplying food to the Zambia Defense Forces. Some of the soldiers are actually going hungry without any food, Madam Speaker. It's because the Zambia Defense Forces, the Zambia Defense Forces, they have over-procured. They have a huge debt which needs to be liquidated. And how do you expect a soldier to go and defend the nation when you are having challenges with issues of giving them food?
The Honorable Member for Kawata, please be a bit cautious, otherwise our army will be attacked. Let's be a bit sensitive with the way we are bringing out certain issues.
Thank you for your guidance, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the other issue that I want to talk about is also the issue of all the equipment, obsolete equipment that they are using. I think there is need, because we have the best engineers in the Zambia Defense Force. Some of them, we have seen how they have managed to go and construct temporary bridges. But the challenge that we have is that they are not adequately given the best equipment that they need to use. So it is for this reason, Madam Speaker, that I'm calling upon the government to consider funding the Zambia Defense Forces so that they can enhance their engineering skills. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, let me talk about the issue.
There's an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure.
Madam Speaker, this is a serious point of order.
The Honorable Minister.
Yeah.
I had indicated that there are no more points of order.
It's very serious because of the way this thing is going.
Order, honorable members. You can just write it for me.
It's procedure, Madam Speaker. We are dealing with a sensitive subject.
Okay. You want to talk about the sensitivity of the report? You may go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The subject at hand in the House, Madam Speaker, is about the security of this nation. Those of us who have been in this House for a long period understand that in the past, subjects like this were discussed in camera because there will be things being said that border on the security of the nation. So it's a question on procedure, Madam Speaker. Is this debate live? If it is live, should it not be in camera? Because we are dealing with the security of the nation. Madam Speaker, I seek your ruling.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think that was the more reason I had guided the Honorable Member for Kawata. That is a very valid and important point. So in this case, maybe what we can do, the strangers or the visitors can leave us, and then the TV and radio can be switched off so that we continue. Wangando, I'm guided to say the House actually can decide whether to debate in camera or not. But like